You know how some products just feel right? Or how certain services are always fantastic, while others, well, they're just a constant headache? Behind every single one of those experiences, the great ones and the frustrating ones, there's a simple but really powerful concept that the best organizations in the world have totally mastered. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on that secret. This quote, it just nails a feeling we've all had. It's from a story about a family. You got the parents, a fussy baby, and they're stuck. First car and a fast food drive-through for over 15 minutes. You can just feel the tension, can't you? That hope for a quick, easy meal just evaporating into pure frustration. And while they're sitting there, they're watching other cars just give up, pull out a line and leave. For that business, that's not just one bad moment. That's lost money, and maybe worse, it's a huge dent in how people see their quality. This is exactly what happens when you miss your most important target. All right, so to really unpack all this, we're going to follow a pretty clear roadmap. We'll kick things off by digging into that painful burger experience. Then we'll get to the main event, defining target values. We'll break those down into 3 clear types using a classic consultant's trick. After that, we'll see how this whole idea fits into the bigger Six Sigma toolkit, run through a real-world case study, and then wrap it all up by helping you figure out how to find your own just right. So that story about the drive-thru, it isn't just a relatable rant. It's the perfect, real-world example of a process completely failing to deliver on its main promise. I mean, it's called fast food for a reason, right? When you break that promise, the whole thing falls apart. It doesn't matter how good the burger is. And this exposes a core principle of business that's at play here. And here it is. This is the big idea, the main point of this whole explainer. Whether you're building a jet engine, writing a piece of software, or just flipping a burger, quality isn't some fuzzy magical thing. It all comes down to hitting a specific, predefined target. It's not about just hoping for the best. It's about defining what the best actually looks like, as a number, as a clear goal that your entire process can aim for. Okay, so let's really dive into this. What exactly is a target value? It sounds simple, but getting the definition just right is the first step to actually being able to control it. This is where we stop just feeling frustrated in line and start thinking like an operations expert. A target value is basically the specific thing your customer needs to feel like they got a quality experience. It could be something you can easily measure, a quantitative thing, like a 3-minute wait. Or it could be qualitative, like a friendly hello. But here's the most important part. Who sets this value? The customer. They're the final judge. And a lot of the time, they give you a little wiggle room, what we call tolerances, around that perfect target. Now, to really get a handle on this, top consultants love to use something called a MEIS framework. It stands for Mutually Exclusive and Collectively Exhaustive, which I know sounds super jargony, but it's really just a smart way of saying we can sort every possible target value into a few simple categories that don't overlap, but all together they cover everything. It brings this beautiful, simple clarity to what can feel like a complex world. And that is the real power of this way of thinking. Any quality target you can dream up is going to fall into one of these 3 buckets. And there are only 3. This isn't just for textbooks, it's an incredibly practical tool. Once you figure out which type of target you're aiming for, you know exactly how to measure it and how to start making it better. Let's start with our first type, smaller is better. Pretty straightforward, right? For these, the goal is always to get the number as low as you can. The perfect score is 0. Think about things you don't want. Defects, errors, waiting. You just have to define the absolute maximum you're willing to accept. That's your upper spec limit. Because, let's be honest, there's no such thing as too little of a bad thing. And these examples make it crystal clear. The target for how late a plane can be, 0 minutes. The target for waste in a factory, 0. An ambulance needs to get there as close to 0 minutes as humanly possible. Even golf fits in here. The lower your score, the better you are. All of these are a race to the bottom in a good way. Okay, so let's flip that whole idea completely on its head. Our next type is larger is better. Here, more is definitely more. Quality goes up as the number gets bigger. For these kinds of targets, you set a minimum acceptable level, a lower specification limit. If you drop below that line, your customer's going to be disappointed. Just think about it. You want 100% on a test. A phone battery that lasts longer is always better. And you want the pressure it takes to burst a tire to be crazy high for safety's sake. In all these situations, we're trying to max out the value. There's really no ceiling on how good it can get. But there is definitely a floor where it becomes totally unacceptable. And this slide introduces our final and honestly often the trickiest category. Nominal is best.
This isn't about more or less. It's about being dead on accurate, hitting the bullseye. Too much is just as bad as too little. This is the Goldilocks principle, but for business. Not too hot, not too cold. It has to be just right. The examples here are perfect. A cereal box has a target weight. If there's too little, customers feel ripped off. If there's too much, the company is losing money. It has to land in a specific range. It's the same with the oil in your car. Not enough, and the engine is toast. Too much, and you can cause a whole other set of problems. The goal is to hit that sweet spot, right in the middle.
Now, it's really important to get this. Target values don't just exist in a vacuum. They're a fundamental piece of a much bigger data-driven system called Six Sigma. In fact, you could say that defining your target is the key that unlocks this whole toolbox of professional-grade improvement methods.
Think of it like this. When consultants talk about finding what's critical to quality for a customer, what they're really doing is hunting for these target values. When you see one of those control charts with the lines on it, those upper and lower limits are built around the target. So the target value isn't just some goal you hope to hit. It's the core number that powers all these advanced tools and tells you if your process is even working correctly.
So enough with the theory, let's make this real. We're going to walk through a quick case study. Let's meet George. He's a purchasing manager, and he wanted to make his team better. He used this exact way of thinking, following a structured process called DMAC. That's define, measure, analyze, improve, and control.
And here's how it all came together. In the define phase, George figured out his target value, lead time. It's a smaller is better type, with an upper limit of 5 days. In measure, he pulled the data and, surprise, they were failing, averaging 7 days. In analyze, he dug in to find out why, proving it was a real systemic problem. For improve, he rolled out a solution. In his case, better training for his team. And finally, control. He set up a system to make sure they stayed on target. You see, the whole project was built around defining and hitting that one critical target value.
And that really brings us to the big takeaway here. It doesn't matter if you're a manager like George, an entrepreneur, or just trying to get better at something personal. The road to real improvement always begins with one question. What's the target? As soon as you define that target and figure out what kind it is smaller better, larger better, or nominal best, you turn a vague frustration into a problem you can actually solve.
So if you remember one thing, let it be this. Quality is not some abstract art. It's a science. It's all about taking that fuzzy feeling of good or bad and turning it into a hard number, a target. Because once you can measure something, you can understand it. And once you understand it, you can finally improve it.
So, I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Think about your job, your team, maybe even a personal project. What is the one thing, that single metric, that if you improved it would change everything? What's its target value? And here's the kicker. Are you actually measuring it? Because finding that answer, well, that's the first real step to creating quality that lasts.